in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of New Jersey, in what was once a Catholic church, past the pulpit from whence the weekly homily was read, beyond the cupboards filled with sacramental wine. A secret society assembles to scrutinize those films rumored to drive viewers to madness and dissolution. Draw closer, dear listener, and let your trembling ears sup upon the eldritch knowledge of the Cinemania Society.
We the fellows of the lens palm do convene to judge if the cinema worthy of our esteem, or whether it should be cast down as worthless hokum. Let us don our feathers in judgment.
We the fellows... Oh.
The story so far. Finding refuge from the hateful wilderness of New Jersey, the group decides to shelter in an old church and hold a conclave on comedy religious drama Dogma from director Kevin Smith, in which it is the 90s, everyone is high, and Alan Rickman is being threatened with a fish. A Catholic with lapsed faith has to make a journey to prevent two rogue angels from entering a recently sanctified church for reasons that are dubious. She is joined by Jay and Silent Bob for reasons that are even more dubious. Relax and roll up a fat one, bros. After all, it's only the entire fate of the universe and everything in it hanging in the balance.
You know, for a weird little spin-off cult from Judaism, I gotta say, I'm digging the whole goth aesthetic. I mean, look at this door!
It's not goth, it's gothic. The Goths copied the Catholics, not the other way around.
Maybe, but about 30 minutes north of here, they turned a cathedral into a goth club. We even called the town Slayerville, though
Nice.
that may have also had something to do with the murder rate. Speaking of which, where did Clark Nova get off to now?
Oh god, it's not starting another cannibal tribe, is it?
What the fuck?
Hello? Is this thing on? Do you not understand I'm threatening you?
Between Clark Nova and all the looming, judgy faces, this place is just getting weirder by the minute.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of my childhood, though.
You know, not to kink shame, but that naked dead guy statue hanging on the wall is really creeping me out.
That's Christ on the cross, and he's not naked. He has a loincloth.
Well, he looks like a Romero zombie. Buddy Christ may have been a genuinely good idea, actually.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but an even better idea would be to get back to the Conclave.
Agreed.
Right.
Yes, it would be.
No more thirsting after Christ.
Don't kink shame.
Loki and Bartleby are in a weapons store trying to buy tools for their vengeful wrath. They creep the fuck out of the salesman while talking about how they destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah back in the day. These knives are nothing compared to a flaming sword, but nothing tops raining down fire and brimstone. This kind of shit is why we need background checks, by the way. But they purchase a big-ass handgun with no issues.
Don't they make the Terminator callback to just what you see, pal?
Yes, good eye.
Wrong. Bang. Bethany, Jay, and Silent Bob have gone to an all-night diner to talk. She tells them she needs to go with them to New Jersey because she was told they would lead her somewhere. Jay isn't interested in any situation that doesn't involve hooking up, so he tries to leave. She convinces them by offering money, and they agree, as long as Jay can drive. Unbeknownst to Bethany, Jay doesn't know how to drive stick and ruins the car, leaving them stranded on the side of the freeway. Bethany tries to flag down a passing Greyhound-style bus, but it refuses to stop. We cut to the interior of this same bus and see Loki and Bartleby discussing their plans on the way to Jersey. Loki determines that a fellow passenger is committing adultery and decides to get back into the Angel of Death business right there and then. He shoots the guy. Everyone flees the bus, and the last we see of our two fallen angels is them walking in what we can only assume is the general direction of New Jersey.
I love that bit about how they're arguing on the bus whether or not the guy is committing adultery or not.
Yeah, and then he just asked the guy, and the guy's such an asshole about it that you kind of just
Are you married? Yes. To her? No.
Just that, it's actually just a great, like, Matt Damon moment, just chewing his gum and just, like, you know, casually whips out the gun and blam!
Oh, yeah.
Whose house? Run's house.
No singing!
Technically
Back
right.
on the side of the freeway, Bethany is ready to cut ties with Jay and Silent Bob. As she starts walking away, Chris Rock falls out of the sky.
Buck ass naked, too.
Yeah, that's an important detail right there.
Oh, yeah.
He tells her that he is Rufus, the 13th apostle, very dead and fresh from heaven. Bethany definitely doesn't remember a 13th apostle, and Rufus claims he was left out because he's black, just like Jesus. They head off down the road to find some food, and we see the hockey hooligans in the background. Instead of pursuing the group, one of them uses his stick to rip a hole in the scene, and they all jump through, literally jumping through reality. Nifty special effects for the time. We see them back at base with Azrael, who is not too pleased that the Scion, aka Bethany, has already teamed up with the prophets and an apostle. He's going to call in the big guns.
So, funny story about this movie. I may have mentioned how this time around, they handed Kevin Smith what to him was just a dump truck full of money to make this thing. He was used to making things for, a few $1,000s. And he was running way under budget. He was like, I don't know what to do with all this money except like coke and whores. So so they just started blowing it on like special effects.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was a nifty special effect.
I do want to say that one thing. At this point in time, the whole concept of Black Jesus was like really controversial. Like Madonna had the Black Jesus in her video for Like a Prayer, and
Yes.
it really got like people talking about Black Jesus, and all the white Christians are like, no Black Jesus, and everybody went, he could have been, yeah.
No Black Jesus. We want that white version of Jesus that was painted by Da Vinci and based on his gay lover.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yet Michael
that's
Jackson
not what it
just
is.
slipped under the radar.
Like a Prayer was the direct inspiration for that. Actually, that was pretty formative for Kevin Smith because that came out when he was probably early 20s. I want to say.
Oh yeah, it was big.
And this is before the whole big thing in New York where there was a Black Mother Mary painting, and then
Oh,
the woman
right.
put elephant shit on it.
I remember
It was long before all of that.
And everyone's like, where the fuck did she get elephant shit?
From an elephant, obviously.
Right? Isn't that endangered?
That is like one of the weirdest twists in that whole story. It's just like, where the fuck this is pre-Amazon, people. You can't just like go online and just be like, elephant shit, have it delivered in 2 days.
Well,
or less.
they can't know for sure that it was elephant shit. It turns out you can't dust for poop.
No, you have to taste for it. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, right. Rufus gives Bethany his history while enjoying an egg-a-movie muffin at Moobies. He wants to help Bethany in exchange for her helping with his campaign to get the Bible fixed, namely including him and the fact that Jesus was black. While Rufus and Bethany are talking, Jay and Bob wander off. Rufus and Bethany find the pair of prophets in a gentleman's club. Bethany decides to call and get them all train tickets to Jersey. Meanwhile, Rufus recognizes the dancer as Serendipity.
What kind of club is open that early? It was obviously early enough in the morning to still get a fast food breakfast sandwich at Moobies.
Keep in mind, this is a Jersey thing, but in New Jersey, by law, all diners are required to be open 24/7. Also, in Jersey, strip clubs do serve disco fries, which makes them categorically diners.
Wow.
We are in hell. Loki and Bartleby show up at Mooby headquarters where they interrupt a board meeting. Through Bartleby's rant, we learn that Mooby is basically the Disney of this universe. And fun fact, Bartleby's rant is almost word for word the magazine article that Loki gave him earlier. Bartleby lets them know that promoting Mooby, a character that is a literal golden calf, makes them all idolaters and therefore breakers of the first commandment. He goes on to list the litany of sins committed by everyone in the room before leaving Loki to his work. Loki tells one token woman on the board that she's the only good person in the room. Therefore, she is the only one left standing when the inevitable bloodbath is over.
But you didn't say God bless you when I sneezed.
I know, and then Bartleby's like, Loki!
Getting off easy.
The fight fun fact for me is that this is the first time we see Bartleby and Loki in action as angels. Bartleby's the words guy, Loki's the stabby.
The fire and brimstone and kill them all guy.
Well, they mentioned that Bartleby's thing was he was a watcher. He watched, and that's why he got so...
He knows all their sins.
That's why he got so disgruntled, because he was
was he sat there carving an onion as well the whole time?
He was making a voodoo doll.
Yeah, but he's just carving that thing up without a single tear. He truly is supernatural. He can do anything.
I liked how he didn't just flat out say what all the sins were. He just insinuated, like, to each person that he knew what the sins were.
That's
he
true.
didn't say explicitly. He's like, and you're his father, or you did the,
Right.
It's very subtle.
Yeah, and just like hearing Matt Damon just like, don't run, as you hear all the gunshots and the blood splattering everywhere. It's just like, Jesus Christ. Literally.
It's pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found a box of Cheez-Its in this fancy cupboard.
Are those communion wafers? Those are meant to be the body of Christ.
I'm starting to understand why the Catholicism WOW campaign made sense. Cheez-Its is a much better name than the body of Christ.
They're not technically the body of Christ until the priest blesses them during Mass, so you can call them whatever you like.
I have found the wine.
Oh, red or white?
Sacramental wine is always red.
They sell white wine in Sacramento?
Sacramental, as in used in a sacred rite, not Sacramento, as in the capital of California.
Okay.
Yeah, friend Zachariah, I found this lovely gallon jug of white collar Rossi. Give it a try.
Ooh, Jersey ghetto juice.
Why? What did you spike it with?
What? Nothing. Why would I? I just did it.
Can we just use some Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill?
No, it has to be red. It represents the blood of Christ.
Body and blood? Are you sure this is a Catholic church and not a cannibal tribe?
And then?
Well, if you're a hardcore Catholic, then you believe that it transubstantiates, and transubstantiation means it literally turns into the body and blood of Christ. But if that's true, then Christ just tastes like stale crackers and cheap wine.
And they give wine to children.
Only a sip, so they have enough for the whole congregation.
Cheap bastards, that's even worse.
And you all drink out of the same cup?
Yep. I mean, I guess the blood of Christ doesn't have cooties? Either that or the alcohol just kills the germs.
That's what I always thought. Zach, what have you done?
What? I put the two together. It's like cereal.
Holy bunches of oats.
Communion Toast Crunch.
Honey Nut Christios.
Cardinal Crunch.
Christ Krispies!
You are all crazy and sacrilegious.
Sacrilegious?
Besides, Frosted Faiths is a way better name.
Oh, wait, no, I get it now. If you create a pretend ritual of cannibalism, you don't actually have to do it.
Hey, you're right on the money there, buddy. Here, have a cracker.
How Talmudic. Back at the club, we learned that Serendipity was an abstract, a muse. Not exactly an angel, but definitely not human. She's about as well equipped as the Metatron, at least below the belt. But she is played by Selma Hayek, after all. Serendipity tells Rufus and Bethany that she inspired not only the top-grossing movies of all time, but also the Bible, arguably the top-grossing book of all time. Unfortunately, the story didn't get written down exactly as she told it, and God was rewritten as a man instead of a woman. She got tired of not getting credit for her ideas and headed down to Earth, only to be stricken by a writer's block. Oh, the irony.
Isn't it ironic, don't you think?
No singing!
I wasn't singing. Technically, that was reciting.
If anyone's going to inspire anyone to do anything, it's gonna be fucking Selma Hayek. Wow.
That is fair. Their conversation is interrupted by the appearance of the Golgothan, a literal shit demon. Yes, this fucker is actually in the Bible. According to Christian mythology, it was an amalgamation of the excrement released from the many, many sinners who were all crucified on the same hill.
Because when you die, you poop yourself.
Truth.
And according to serendipity, God hates it when you call it mythology.
This is what Azrael sent after them. After others try and fail to defeat this monstrosity, Silent Bob hits it in the face with some air freshener that is guaranteed to knock strong odors out. Womp, womp.
Definitely.
That's a shitty pun, but I'll allow it.
Oh, boy.
So, really briefly, getting back to the whole budget special effects thing, this was where they blew their budget.
Yeah.
They originally were gonna, cut almost all of this and do it kind of off screen with sounds and and cans flying on
Shit
the screen.
splatters flying around.
Yeah, because that's just how he does things, right? He's used to doing things on a budget. And
like the shooting scene earlier.
Right. He thought it would be funnier off screen, but he's like, well, I have all this money.
I got the budget for a latex poop suit, so why not?
Well, yeah, and actually it was Harvey Weinstein. I feel like now every time we have to say that asshole.
I thought it was the Golgothan.
No, I feel like it's Poro, right? You have to make the noisemaker every time you hear his name.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, he was the one who encouraged them to actually have a proper fight scene here, because there isn't one anywhere else in the goddamn movie.
He should have been the one in that suit.
Yeah, no doubt.
He should have been the one in the toilet.
Ugh, he's actually slimier than that.
No doubt. It was actually because of this scene that it made Kevin Smith really incongruous that people were protesting it. They're just it's wrong about Jesus. He's like, it's a movie with a poop monster.
Yeah, right.
How seriously can you take it?
They're Catholics. They can take anything seriously.
Yeah, he's like, but it's got a poop monster.
No, that's holy shit.
Holy shit.
We're back to Loki and Bartleby, who can't get train tickets, and debate busting out their wings to fly to Jersey. Azrael appears and warns them it might not be such a good idea. Azrael lets them know that everyone, from heaven and hell, is trying to find and eliminate them. No one wants them to get back into heaven. He gives the angels 2 train tickets and warns them to lay low. On the train, Rufus and Bethany wax philosophical about the issues with organized religion, etc., while Jay and Silent Bob make friends with Larry and Barry, who we, the audience, know are Loki and Bartleby. Rufus lays down for a nap and Bethany joins the others. She and Bartleby have a very personal conversation, which leads her to thinking he and Loki are a couple. They all talk about why they're each headed to Jersey, while Bethany gets progressively drunker. They talk about losing faith, and Bethany gradually reveals her quest while laughing about the whole thing. Bartleby realizes that Bethany is the last scion, right as Rufus, fresh from his nap, joins them, and they all recognize each other. Because nothing could go wrong with that. Rufus asks them to stop and warns them that their plan is going to undo all of existence. A big fight ensues and ends with Bob throwing both angels off the train.
Love that bit.
Another passenger gawks at him in horror, and Bob utters his one and only line of the entire film: "No tickets."
That's not right. He says bye at the end. Or thanks. Yeah. Well,
It
At the end, it's just one word. This is his only line. At the end, it's a single word.
Good point. Right. No tickets.
Back in the day, you used to watch these movies just waiting for the single Silent Bob bit.
I know.
The thing.
Because it was always good. He made his lines count.
The fact that Kevin Smith gave himself what he referred to as the Marceau part was because he didn't trust himself as an actor. And it's so funny that this is the fucker who started a podcast network and stuff. And, especially in his days when he was smoking a ton of pot, he just would not shut up. I went to a showing of Red State that he did, and just they actually had to pull him off the stage after the showing when he was talking and talking. He just would not shut up. I mean,
so he eventually did find his voice.
People were actually leaving because they're just I think I've had enough Kevin Smith talking. So.
Yeah, he was always a talkative motherfucker, but
oh yeah.
The thing is, back in the day when these movies were still coming out, he was doing conventions and stuff like that. Because at this point he was famous enough, and he would talk there. But YouTube wasn't a huge thing yet, so it wasn't as easy to see it unless you saw him in person. Then he got the podcast, then he got everything else, then he started making the like recordings of him doing the one-man shows, and like, now everybody knows he's a talker. Yeah.
Yeah, but beforehand, you would just wait on bait, I think the most that you heard him talk was in Chasing Amy when he tells that story at the end,
Right, and that was the gag there, that he's only got one line, but it's like 4 minutes long.
And he may only say the one line, but he's incredibly expressive the whole time. It's like he's talking through it, because you can tell exactly what Silent Bob is thinking and doing.
Oh, yeah.
Just from his face.
Or he looks at Jay, and Jay says what he wants him to say. Like, he communicates silently to Jay.
He is very much the Harpo Marx.
Or the Chewbacca.
Right. So now, obviously, throwing the angels off the train doesn't kill them. In a parking garage, Loki is having second thoughts about the whole thing. He just thought they were going to stick it to the man. He didn't realize they were going to undo existence. Now, Bartleby, on the other hand, goes on a huge, long rant about how unfair everything is, how much they deserve to go home, how humans don't deserve everything they've been given, all that. Loki compares Bartleby to Lucifer and says he wants out. He's ready to go back to Wisconsin, but Bartleby is having none of it.
The strange thing about this part was that previously Loki seemed kind of more the unbalanced one and Bartleby was the sensible one, but here Bartleby's gone completely around the bend and Loki's like, chill out, man, I just kind of want to like forget this plan and go back to Wisconsin, and Bartleby's like, no, and he's like totally gone crazy, like
completely
he's the crazy
unhinged.
One. Yeah, completely unhinged.
You remind me of the Morning Star.
Yeah, it is. He's like, I heard a rant like this before.
I like the way they describe it. Bartleby was the instigator the whole time. Bartleby is the one that got Loki drunk and told them they should go confront God. I mean, Bartleby's been the instigator. Maybe he just became more outspoken in this scene, but it felt to me like he was always the instigator and Loki was kind of always the follower.
Yeah.
It's sort of in character in that sense. This is definitely one of the clunkier writing and acting sections, because it's a lot of dialogue that they're chewing there.
It didn't feel clunky to me. It felt like a natural progression of the character. I liked it.
Well, so that's the thing. It could be a lot smoother, like the ramp up, because what really kicks it off, right, is on the train where Bartleby assumes that it was heaven that intentionally, well, actually it's an accurate assumption, that heaven sicked the scion on them to try to kill them. I guess on the, I don't know, maybe there's some lore there that the scion is like the Van Helsing of heaven. I don't know. But like...
yeah, I guess as soon as he realizes Bethany's the scion and what that means, it's something clicks and he just flips.
Yeah, but it's a real crazy ramp up. There's not quite enough seated earlier on to show Bartleby gradually getting crazier and crazier, right? Like he goes from this logical, like, oh, which as we learn later, right, was Azrael actually inspiring them, which we're about to talk about. But so the thing that I always interpreted about this is Bartleby, he's the really cynical one. So it's his cynicism that really is what drives all of this, right?
Yeah,
like
but Loki's the one who's just willing to blow somebody's head off on the bus, just like no warning.
Right. Loki, well, that's just Loki being enthusiastic for his job, right?
I mean, well, Loki comes across as a hot-headed extremist, but in this moment, it turns out that Loki has learned his lesson. He's saying, you sound like the Morning Star, we're not going down that road again. He's learned from that. He doesn't want to rehash old mistakes. Bartleby has not let it go at all and actually is fully prepared to charge straight ahead and continue what was begun all those millennia ago.
Right. Well, Bartleby is the one who got Loki in trouble in the first place by getting him drunk and being like, maybe these people don't deserve it. Loki, he's just a dude who's like, I love my job. It's not really work if I love my job. That's just Loki.
Right.
It's kind of Loki's Jay and Bartleby is Silent Bob.
Except that Bartleby talks a fuck ton more.
Their attitude towards heaven is completely different. I mean, Loki sees it as he recognizes the authority of heaven and he just wants to get back there. Bartleby challenges the authority of heaven and wants to overturn it.
He wants to stick it to the man.
Well, in this case, the woman.
Yeah.
Our heroes, meanwhile, have left the train as well, and are all sitting around hobo-style around a campfire in the woods. Bethany tells Rufus that she is tired of all cryptic bullshit and demands to know why she is the one who has to complete this mission. Rufus talks about the missing years of Christ's life in the Bible. Christ goes from 12 to 30, and writings about those missing years were left out of the Bible because they dealt with Christ's family, his brothers and sisters. Rufus tells her it's one thing to believe Mary was a virgin when Christ was born, but it's just plain stupid to think Mary and Joseph would have been married without getting it on. Being a scion means that Bethany is related to Christ as a great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great, etc., grandniece. She wants no more of this, and runs off into the woods, where she finds Metatron in a lake. He explains more about what is going on and why she couldn't just be told everything from the beginning. He moves everybody to a fancy restaurant and explains that God is missing in action. Apparently, God likes to assume human form once a month and come down to Earth to play skee-ball, which is the greatest sport known to man, as we all know.
New Jersey State sport?
Yes, it is.
It was created by Jonathan Ball. That's where it got its name from.
Well, God didn't return from her last trip down, and no one can find her. Whoever is behind all of this knew enough to keep God's body alive, because if she had died, she would have just popped right back up to heaven, and she could have easily handled this whole situation. The plot thickens. Metatron is out of ideas and ready to just wait for death when Jay suggests they just ask Glick to close the church. If the church is closed, the ceremony doesn't happen, and the day is saved. Score 1 for the Stoners. Woo! Next, we see everyone talking to Cardinal Glick as he practices his golf game in his office by putting into a communion goblet of all things. Yeah, the same one he's going to serve wine out of later. Glick doesn't believe any part of their story and refuses to change any plans. He says that nothing short of the hand of God will stop his plans. Foreshadowing. Our heroes adjourn to a bar where Azrael joins them and says he's going to keep everyone in the bar until his plan is finished. He's got a machine gun and a trio of demons, and they're going to help him do just that. Serendipity had just figured out that he was behind all of this, but not why. Back at the church, Glick is in the courtyard, cheesing for the camera and preparing to open the church when Loki and Bartleby show up and all hell breaks loose.
I don't think we've touched on this yet, but fucking George Carlin, he had a stand-up talking about, like, the church and Christianity, and he was, like, one of the first stand-up comics who actually kind of took on how fucked up it all was. So that was part of the joke and the irony of casting him as Cardinal Glick, because he was, very adamantly against the church.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they should have gotten Sinead O'Connor, too.
Yeah, right? Kevin Smith
He makes a really good cardinal, though. I mean,
he does.
He works.
He wrote it specifically for George Carlin. Like, he went out of his way to make friends with George Carlin just to make sure he could get him to agree to be in this movie.
George became another, like, strong friend and supporter of Kevin Smith. Yeah, he put George was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Jersey Girl, and I think that's the only other movies he was in with Kevin Smith.
Yeah. I could have sworn
He was Mr. Conductor.
He was.
Him and then Ringo Starr were Mr. Conductor on Shining Time Station, the original Thomas the Train.
He's just like, okay, kids, these are the words you can't say on television.
Thomas passed through a plenary indulgence and realized that he was now without sin. Immediately he went to run over the fat controller and greased the wheels of his axles with that fat bastard's entrails.
Oh dear.
What? He's just being kind of whimsical. It's really nice, actually.
Shut up, Paul.
The most offensive part of this movie for Catholics is probably the cardinal using the cup that they're the very holy cup that they use for communion for golf.
Again, why he gave it to George Carlin.
Exactly.
Yeah. No.
Just
George
make it
Carlin
doubly blasphemous.
Right.
Increase the blasphemy.
All of my friends were Catholic, and it was pretty substantial because in Jersey, or at least
Everyone's Italian. Everyone's either Catholic or Jewish. There's nothing else over there.
Yeah, it was all like Italian, Polish, and Irish Catholics. I actually thought Protestants were in the minority for the first 15 years of my life.
Well, you know what they say about Catholics. They'll take you as soon as you're warm.
You're a Catholic the moment Dad came.
Right.
Yep.
So they all agreed. Like George Carlin's performance as the cardinal was actually the most offensive thing because it's portraying a Catholic being really un-Catholic, and knowingly so.
And I've never met a member of the clergy with an actual personality.
Back in the bar, Serendipity starts to explain why Azrael hatched this plan. Apparently, Azrael was also an abstract. He was inspiration. So when there was the Great War between the faithful and the rebels after Lucifer's uprising, Azrael refused to join his side and was cast down into hell. He wants his revenge and doesn't care who he takes down with him. He's the one who kept God on Earth, and he's the one who fed the idea to Loki and Bartleby. Demons can't transubstantiate to become humans like angels can, so that's why he needed Loki and Bartleby. While Azrael is monologuing, Serendipity sends Bob the idea to hit Azrael with the golf club that he stole from Cardinal Glick. Azrael figures this out and just says, "Go for it, hit me," assuming he's not going to feel much of anything because he's a fucking demon. It turns out Glick was the kind of bastard who would bless his own clubs, so that makes the golf club, technically, an instrument of God, and crushes Azrael's chest with one hit, bones flying, black ooze coming out.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
It's impressive. Serendipity tells Bethany to bless the sink because apparently that's, again, yet another one of these legalese perks of being the descendant of Christ, and they dunk the hockey hooligans into the now holy water to take them out.
Yeah, I like that whole bit. I also like that there's that bit where Azrael makes the holy bartender joke, and then later on in the middle of all this, Jay's just like, "Holy bartender, I just got that thing. That's fucking funny as shit, dude."
Oh, look, more creepy statues. I thought this was a monotheistic religion.
It is, technically. Christ, God, and the Holy Spirit are all one.
Oh, no. That's definitely three things you just said. How many things, Zach?
3 things. I may not know everything, but I can count.
He can count.
And besides, what about all these other characters?
Those are saints. We don't worship them, really.
Nah, you just made graven images of them.
Well, that's St. Peter, see? He founded the Catholic Church, so you can blame most of this on him. And that lady there, with the big hoop ears, okay, that's a little weird.
It's a Jersey thing.
Well, I think she's supposed to be the Virgin Mary, Mother of Christ.
That's definitely not how biology works.
It was a miracle, and I want you to acknowledge that.
Miracle or not, there are still rules.
Hey, Inquisitor.
What do you want?
Listen, he's somebody. This place is creepy. I get it. Why don't we get out of here? There are much more fun places around here.
I would love to, in principle. But this is New Jersey.
Listen, I know a guy who can get you at least 3 virgins. And real ones.
What's going on here? You're acting very strange.
No way, Brother Ethan. I'm only trying to help.
Yeah, well, that's just it. You're being awfully nuts.
Wait, what?
Hey, everybody. Who's this weirdo?
Oh, that. That there is St. Julian the Hospitaller, patron saint of boatmen, carnival workers, childless people, circus workers, clowns, ferrymen, fiddlers, hospitalers, hospitality ministers, hotel keepers, innkeepers, hunters, jugglers, knights, murderers, pilgrims, shepherds, travelers, and wandering musicians.
Had God yad, had God yad.
No,
singing.
it wasn't me. Wait, so you have a patron saint of carnies?
That's quite the resume on this guy. Did he leave anything for the other saints?
Oh, and assassins. He's also the patron saint of assassins.
Oh.
Dun dun dun!
That explains why he looks so menacing. That or maybe because he's the patron saint of carnies.
Hey, did he just blink?
Statues don't blink. That's not how stone works.
I could have sworn.
You're seeing things. I told you not to drink that whole jug of wine, and don't discriminate. Everyone gets a patron saint.
Don't tell me not to drink my jug of wine.
Dude, that was Carlo Rossi. You're gonna have such a headache tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
So everyone drives to the church and finds absolute carnage. One of the torn banners in the background now reads, Catholicism, ow. Loki tells them that Bartleby has completely lost his shit and just been dropping random people from the sky. It started with everyone who was there for the centennial, and he ran out of churchgoers and just started grabbing random people from the street. Loki's wings have been cut off and he's drunk, so we know he's human now. Serendipity frantically asks if he's gone through the archway yet, and Bartleby yells down, no, he hasn't, as he comes down and rants and rants and rants about how he doesn't care if everything's over. Humans don't deserve this world, etc., etc. Loki has a crisis of conscience and tries to tell Bartleby to stop, but Bartleby is too far gone at this point and kills Loki.
Can you believe that? He killed his partner?
Yep, nothing was going to stand in his way.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
While everyone else is attacking Bartleby, Bethany and Jay are hiding behind some boxes. She laments, what the fuck kind of deity gets kidnapped? And through their conversation, Jay references John Doe Jersey, who's on life support at the hospital that is conveniently just across the street. Bethany has an epiphany. She asks Jay if there's a place nearby to play skee-ball, which he confirms, and she has all the info she needs. She tells Jay to stall Bartleby and keep him from entering the church.
So, it's not as convenient as you might think. I mean, it's Jersey. It's not that big. So, everything real close together.
Good point. This bit's pretty fun, though, because earlier on, when Jay keeps trying to hook up with Bethany, like, it's just kind of a constant theme. Jay's always trying to hook up with somebody.
Oh, no, I know where you're going.
He keeps trying, and she keeps turning him down. He's like, oh, no, what if we're in a situation where there's like 5 minutes left to live, the world's about to end? She goes, in that extremely unlikely situation, then I'll fuck you. And while she's talking to him, he's pulling down his pants and whipping out a condom, and she goes, what are you doing? It's like, there's 5 minutes, the world's about to end. We only got 5 minutes left to live. You said you'd fuck me. And then she realizes what's going on when she tells him.
But if he believes the world's about to end, why the condom?
Oh, yeah.
That only just occurred to me. You know what?
He's just respectful like that.
Yeah, good on the boy. Good on the boy.
He doesn't take no for an answer, but he puts on a condom.
I mean, you know. But then when she runs off and she's like, stall Bartleby, he gets up and goes, how am I supposed to do that? And he's waddling with his pants around his ankles. It's a great scene. Anyway, the next thing we see is Bethany running into the hospital. She looks like a salmon trying to swim upstream against the crowds desperately fleeing, while a calm voice on the hospital PA says, I repeat, this is not a drill. This is the apocalypse. Please exit the hospital in an orderly fashion. Thank you.
How did they know it was the apocalypse?
They have a recording for everything, man.
I don't think it was recorded. I think it's just someone over the PA. But I mean, it's New Jersey. Wouldn't you be prepared for the apocalypse?
You mean Tuesday?
Yeah, right. Maybe they did have it recorded.
Just like, hey, Bruno,
I think I saw
look.
a sign saying prepare for the apocalypse on the side of the road on the way in.
Welcome to hell. Sorry, New Jersey.
Right.
We're not all of hell. We're only the fifth circle.
No, that's the worst one, though.
Well, you know, you people keep asking me, oh, are you really making this up? You keep going to hell. And it's like, yes, it's a much shorter trip for me.
Hey, what do you mean by you people?
So Jay, trying to be helpful, grabs the machine gun that they took from Azrael and starts shooting at Bartleby. Bartleby ducks so that the bullets just shear off his wings. Serendipity and Rufus try to stop Jay, but it's too late. Bartleby is human now, and he makes a run for the church doors. Back at the hospital, Bethany finds John Doe Jersey and starts literally pulling the plug on him. She's pretty sure that this is God. Fingers crossed, right? And when she pulls the last plug, it's obvious she's right. God lets out a scream as she leaves that body, which unfortunately eviscerates Bethany's innards. Metatron did warn us about this kind of thing.
I always wondered how she died, like how that happened, because I was a little unclear on
It's a real blink and you miss it moment, but
Yeah,
you
it
see
is.
her stagger back.
Yeah, you see something kind of like hit her in the side where later she's bleeding from. Like something got like chucked through her from just the blast of God leaving Bud.
I thought it was just like a bunch of internal bleeding and she just started bleeding out.
No, that was like, isn't that the actor Bud Ward? Or maybe I'm getting his wrong, but he was the kid in, what was it? Maude and...
Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude, yeah. Yeah, he's an older man now, but yeah, I think that's the actor's name is Bud Ward.
Court.
Oh,
yeah, he's the one who is John Doe Jersey / God.
But nope, it's Bud Court.
Court, that's what it is. I was thinking, yeah, Bud Ward. The Ward, I was thinking that
wasn't he the original Robin the Boy Wonder?
Yes, exactly. That's what I thought I was going. That was Burt Ward. Burt Ward. Yeah. But also, the reason that I think Kevin Smith put it in the whole thing of God being like stuck on life support was topical to the time because Right to Die and stuff. What was the name of that doctor who like had the suicide?
Kevorkian.
Yeah, Kevorkian was in the news.
Well, and even more so, Terry Schiavo.
Right. Who were they again? I'm like blanking.
Terry Schiavo was the woman who was on life support, and her husband wanted to pull her, but her parents were born agains or something like that, and so there was a big, and it had just been a couple of years earlier that it had gone to court. It was huge on the news.
Yeah. And if you pay attention through the film when people are reading newspapers and stuff, there's little stories about the church protesting about John Doe Jersey being taken off life support.
Well, because it's just across the street.
Right. They also pray for him in the Mass for John Doe Jersey as well.
Yeah, they pray for him at the Mass, and they take up a collection to help pay to keep his life support on. Because they don't believe in ending, that anyone but God should end your life.
Yeah, and, I think Kevin Smith was putting in a lot of his issues with the Catholic Church, and, that being topical at the time, I think that's one of the reasons it got written in like that. Just my 2 cents, though.
Yeah.
Ironically, in this case, it kept God on earth.
Exactly.
Womp and womp.
Yeah, shot themselves in the foot. And use your own rules against you.
Exactly. Their own dogma.
Could you imagine, though, if it turned out that Bethany was wrong in her hunch, and her last act on Earth before she dies, or really everyone dies, is she murders an innocent man?
Goes to hell for it.
That's in the director's cut of Dogma. She actually goes down the whole ward just in a rampage of death.
just unplugging everybody.
Yeah, just silencing the light from old people left and right. An entire ward.
Maybe she should just go to the
left
basement and like hit the power switches. Just hit the fuse box, cut everything off.
So from what I understand, this has changed over time, but Kevin Smith is not one of those directors who's like, he gets it in one take, right? Like he'll try different things. He likes to let people improv. Are folks familiar? There's a really infamous director's cut, completely different ending version of Clerks.
Yeah, the one where Dante gets shot.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and the last thing he says is, "But I wasn't even supposed to be here today," and dies.
Yep, it did not screen well.
No, they all thought it was too dark.
So it is distinctly possible that there is something exactly like what you're describing, Brother Andy, in the can.
Oh yeah, she did more damage to that hospital than the Joker.
But in true Joker fashion, she walked away without looking backwards at the explosion. She's a badass.
Speaking of like great improvs right there, the thing about that take, right? Where he like hit... Heath Ledger, he was supposed to walk away, hit the button and the hospital blows up, but he hit it and there was a delay on the explosions and they said, just keep going with it. So that's when you get that great Joker moment of him like, looking back at the hospital and just kind of shrugging and just being like, what the hell? And then it blows up and, it just turns out to be just this perfect Joker moment, but it was unplanned.
Nice. So last we saw was Bartleby making a mad dash for the church doors while Serendipity and Rufus were trying to stop him. Just as Bartleby opens the church doors, we see Metatron and Alanis Morissette on the other side.
Fuck yeah.
Yep. That's who's playing God. And I mean, I'd believe God's Canadian.
I don't know. See, here's the thing. I know God mostly from the Old Testament.
Right.
That God is not nice enough to be a Canadian.
But this is Bloody Christ now, remember?
I know, this is the
Bloody
newer,
Christ.
kinder, gentler God.
But we do agree that Celine Dion is the devil.
Yeah, of course. It's just all that got horns now.
God's Canadian, the devil is French Canadian. That makes sense.
I think Canadians would agree with that.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Quebecois.
Yes.
There's great fishing in Quebec, that's what I know. Oh, also speaking of things that were topical and stuff, this is really what pushed the, God is female dialogue. Just like, why does God have to be a boy? God is God. God can be a woman. God can be whatever it wants.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
So this
it wasn't the first thing, but it definitely threw it in everybody's face, yeah.
And casting Alanis Morissette as God was a coup. Everyone was just like, like they saw her show up on the screen and she really hadn't done any acting since, you can't do that on television.
Well, and she has a voice that destroys mortal forms.
Right. Exactly.
But Hope, what were you going to say?
This reminds me of a story from when I was in probably either kindergarten or first grade when I was in Catholic school. So somehow I didn't get the message that God was supposed to be this big bearded man in the sky. The message that I got was that God was kind of like a concept more. But God wasn't a person. God was like ephemeral and just could be anything, right?
Like compound interest.
Yeah, just like that. Made no sense. So they asked us all of us 5 or 6 year olds, draw a picture of God. And I asked my teacher, how do you draw God? You can't see God. She's like, just draw whatever you think God is. I was like, all right. So everybody drew like the classic white Jesus. And I was like, I don't know. I just drew a big cloud, like a big abstract sort of cloud smiling down on everybody.
Aww.
And so when they put them all up for like parents' night or back to school night or whatever, they put mine in the middle with all the white Jesuses around it. And according to my mom, it like ended up in the newspaper or something when they were like sharing pictures from like the school, because our church was pretty big in the community.
Right.
But somehow I did not get the message that God was supposed to be a big white man. I don't know.
The whole thing just turned into a mural of tech bros worshipping Bitcoin.
Yes, exactly. And, I was ahead of my time.
Yes, you were.
I had exactly the opposite experience. So So when I was in like first or second grade, right, it was just one of those random, and it was to draw a scene from the Torah, right? I think we were on something in the middle of the Moses stretch, right?
Please tell me you chose something bloody.
Oh, yeah. But I think I did one of the plagues or something like that. But so what I drew was God as this like big bearded face looming out of a cloud, a little bit, but it was very much inspired by Monty Python.
Yes.
Right. Showed me Monty Python. And I got in trouble because in Judaism, you're not supposed to show the face or the form of God. You're not even supposed to say his name.
Look, it's fine to draw all the foreskins of the Philistines being gathered together as an offering, but you can't show the face of God.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's in there.
I forgot about that part. I drew something like that and got in trouble in Hebrew school as well because I did a really graphic portrayal of David and Goliath right when the stone hit Goliath's head, and I was making bone fragments and stuff fly off, and you could see brains and stuff. I mean, it was to me, it was just still little kid and crayon and stuff, but they're just we need to talk about Zach.
Yes, we do. But all that to say, Hope, you were already way further ahead spiritually.
Oh, I was already questioning shit.
Yeah.
I remember my dad taking me to church, and they always do a reading before the priest does their homily, just like the sermon. Someone does a reading, and they say blah 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 blah, chapter something from the book of Luke or the book of Mark or the book of whatever. And then at the end, they close it out with, and this is the word of God. So I remember on the way out asking my dad, I said, why do they say it's the book of Luke or whatever? And he goes, because Luke wrote it. Well, then why do they say it's the word of God if Luke wrote it? It's well, God told her to write. Stop asking questions.
Shut up, eat your vegetables.
God didn't have a pencil that day.
Right? Well, yeah, but
take your communion waivers.
So this moment with the drawing the bearded god in the sky thing was actually one of the first things that was set me off on my path of fuck you too then.
Right.
My path was just like, you guys, this doesn't make sense. And they were like, it's not supposed to. I was like, I'm pretty sure everything's supposed to make sense. And so they lost.
I have a question. Coming back around to the original thing that got us off topic here, around like God portrayed as a woman. One thing that stood out to me later that did it even sooner was there was a counting blue cars. It was
by Dishwalla.
Dishwalla, right? Thank you. And I was like, because they used the female pronoun.
Yep.
I don't remember that making a big deal though, the same way this movie did. But you guys might remember better.
We didn't really pay attention to song lyrics that much back then, so people either misheard it or just didn't
I
care.
refuse to pay attention to anything produced by someone called Dishwalla.
Yeah, I think
I like their music. They're actually very good. I bought the whole album when I was in high school.
I think in the 90s we greatly underestimated the staying power of the great band Dishwalla.
And this is the word of Dishwalla.
I think if they'd known how prophetic they'd be, they might not have called themselves Dishwalla.
Yeah.
I mean, they were a one-hit wonder. You're kind of obligated to have a weird name if you're a one-hit wonder.
No. They were a two-hit wonder.
No.
What was the second one?
Just the one.
I don't remember.
All then.
I have their stuff.
And if you've just joined us, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Dishwalla podcast. That's 24 hours a day, every day, all about Dishwalla and their one or many hits. Let's find out.
Okay, this is good, but let's bring it home because.
All right, so Bartleby pleads with God, but then silently accepts his fate. Metatron warns everyone who's not either dead or from another plane of existence to cover their ears while God lets out a literal ear-splitting scream.
Unhinges her jaw.
Bartleby's head explodes. God whooshes everything back to normal in the church courtyard, and it seems like we're looking at a happily ever after situation. That is, until someone realizes Bethany hasn't come back. Bob appears carrying her lifeless body. Metatron laments that death is an unfortunate requirement of being a martyr. Fortunately, this is no biggie for God. She brings Bethany back Lazarus style and then wanders off to do a headstand by a tree. Yeah, she's that kind of deity. Metatron tells Bethany to take care of herself because they'll need her again. She says, yeah, I'm the last scion. Then Metatron touches her abdomen and tells her, no, this is the last scion. Yep, Bethany's preggers and her crisis of faith is over. She takes advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to ask God about life, the universe, and everything. God just gives her a nose boop. I mean, makes about as much sense as 42, right? All of the non-humans head back up to heaven, and that's it.
You know, I got a little bit of a thought here. So, when Bethany initially asks Metatron about God, God says that she's a bit lonely but funny. And at the end, he says, I told you she was funny. But usually, having a sense of humor and stuff is a trauma response. So, I'm just thinking, what kind of fucking trauma did God go through to become funny?
Have you met us?
The kind she created herself? Like the Great Flood and all that shit?
Yeah.
Create a universe, man. That's gotta be traumatic.
If it's anything like childbirth, I believe it.
Fuck.
I'm telling you, I saw the statue with the skates move.
I'm sorry, did you say skates?
Oh, that one's Saint Lidwinda. She's the patron saint of ice skaters.
How the hell do you have a saint of ice skaters?
There's a saint for everything.
How the hell does a statue move?
Because it didn't. All this ominous religious stuff is just messing with your head and making you paranoid.
I'm not paranoid.
Forget St. Tanya Harding. The St. Peter statue keeps staring at me, like it's judging me. I don't like being judged. I like being the one who judges.
Hello, Kettle? This is Pot calling.
St. Peter, he founded the Catholic Church. Being a judgmental prick is like his whole thing.
What about this big armored dude with the fez under his hood?
St. Adrian of Nicomedia? Well, the fez is weird. He's supposed to have a helmet.
Hey, yo, my bad. I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
Now I'm being paranoid?
Look out! He's got a sword!
What kind of a saint was Nicomedia?
Patron saint of plague, arms dealers, butchers, guards, and soldiers.
So basically, the patron saint of fucking you up.
That's no saint. That's a cinema assassin.
Is it a signal?
So is that one. Oh no. Not just any cinema assassins. They set the Knights of Continuity.
Get him.
Wait for me. My knees have collapsed. My ankles are basically chalk at this point.
That episode of the Cinemania Society was written, produced, and performed by Andrew Palladino, Andy Slack, Daniel Scribner, Ethan Ireland, Zachariah Burks, and Hope Bravo. Sound design, mixing, mastering, and editing by Ethan Ireland. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Sound effects and incidental music courtesy of Epidemic Sound. Visit our social media feeds on Facebook, Twitter, no, I'm not calling it whatever that other name is, at TCS_Cinemania, Instagram at The Cinemania Society, and Reddit at r/The Cinemania Society. If you really like what you've heard, visit us on Patreon and chuck us a couple bones, because making podcasts ain't free. The Cinemania Society is a product of the Cinemania Society, LLC.